What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Fantasy Alarm live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me, of course, Craig Mish. We got a lot to talk about here, fantasy baseball wise, broadcasting here on Fantasy Alarm's homepage, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, whatever you want to do. Find it on Twitter. Look, I'm going to retweet it right now as we speak here. So, lots going on. Craig, how you been, man? How was your weekend? How are your fantasy baseball teams doing? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm good. Friday I had to miss a live stream. I traveled Friday to Atlanta on a business trip. Got back Saturday. Went to the Marlins game, 25th anniversary against the Padres. Went again on Sunday, and then last night went to see the team that you have in your city, the Giants, play the Marlins in a wild game last night. So I had a chance to see 3 baseball games in 72 hours. Talked to a couple of the guys on the Giants. Chris Stratton, who told me that he has not heard once this year from anyone at any ballpark that they have him on his fantasy team this year. And I found that hard to believe, because I'm not saying that he has set the world on fire, Howard, but you know how fantasy is. And he hadn't heard it once. And then Andrew McCutchen, I talked to him too, but he had no interest in doing any fantasy stuff with me also. But at the same time, karma's a funny thing. The Giants should have won that game 3 different times yesterday, and the Marlins came back to beat them 7-5 last night. So I've been immersed in baseball for the last few days. Now I'm going to take a few days off from going to the park, and it's good to be here with you and talking about the rest of the league today.
Well, it is. Let's definitely talk about the rest of the league, because that Giants-Marlins game, yeah, that was trash upon trash. I was sitting there literally, I don't even know. Oh, I think I let Jim Bowden, that is. I think I let him talk me out of using a little Giants mini stack there of Posey, Longoria, and McCutchen, which would have panned out nicely as a nice little support to the other Cardinals I was using. And I could have laid off the tribe a little bit more, but yeah, what are you going to do? You know what? That's the nature of the DFS game. And, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes nobody gives a damn. How about that?
No, that's true. But, I'll tell you, crazy enough, when we started doing this, I think late March we started our live streams and doing this, and we were talking about the season. And, people say the baseball season is long, and look, I get it. It's hard to sit down and watch one game for 3 hours, and believe me, I'm attending a lot of games here in South Florida. And believe me, we get to the 5th, 6th inning, and I'm like, man, and plus I'm seeing a bad team every day. It is rough, but in all honesty, the season has gone by pretty fast. We are almost at the 40% mark of the fantasy baseball season. So teams, you definitely know where you're at right now. You know what you need to attack in terms of category and in terms of trade. And I think that in identifying my teams, at least this year, I'm in contention in, for sure, 3 out of the 5 teams I'm in. I'm not quitting on the host league that we're in together. I still think I have a chance to be competitive in that. But now I can start to identify where my failures were this year. I don't regret it not drafting closers, but it's very clear at this point in a couple of the league I'm going to need saves. But I think we're now starting to see some transitions we'll get to here on the live stream. And steals has been hard to come by. It almost feels like if you didn't get a couple of really good steals guys, you're chasing your tail on that all season. You just can't go to the waiver wire and find somebody to give you 10 steals. You can't do it. So I'm starting to identify those issues, but overall, I'm feeling pretty good as to where I'm at. Last year, I felt awful as to where I'm at. So it's definitely been a better change for me.
A little more encouraging. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of it was like the late 90s, the mid to late 90s, when it was all about, if you had saves and steals, if you locked up those 2 categories, the rest just kind of came through. And with the steroid era, it was really kind of true, is that everybody was popping home runs like we're seeing right now. And those with the saves and the steals, it's kind of funny too, because last year and the year before that, when we were talking about steals being down as much as they were, you still didn't need to grab yourself like a big burner. There weren't, people were reaching on Billy Hamilton. And while, yeah, I think that, we didn't need to really go so crazy gung-ho about it this year again. If you're lacking, I mean, it's a problem. I mean, I'm not saying you had to like reach for a burner, but the guys who are sitting there stealing 15 to 20 bases at this point in time right now, those are your locks. Those are your guys who you're really hunting for, and nobody's giving them up in trades.
Yeah, and I spoke to Travis Jankowski at the game last week, and I explained to him how I had him last year, and he was coming off a year where I think he stole 24 or 29 bases. It was one of those two numbers. I don't know which one it was.
Yep.
And I told him how disappointed I was this year because I didn't take him. And now here he is. He's already got 10 steals. He told me that he's got the green light virtually every time he's on first base. And he's throwing 40, 50 steals at me. And it makes me miserable because I didn't take a shot on him again this year. But it's guys like Jankowski, Michael A. Taylor, Ender Inciarte. Those were the ones that ended up giving you the most steal value, bang for your buck for the most part. There have been some other guys as well. But just kind of piecing through, not taking those guys, it feels like, Howard, a lucky category steals. We've gotten to that point where you just found somebody that happened to steal all these bases for you because I mean, I'm going to have to take a look at it differently next year and see how I attack it because I certainly have not got back the return that I thought I would. And this is 2 years in a row of me failing in that category. So I'll have to try and figure out a new strategy with steals next year. Saves, I'm good. I'm happy. With no saves, I'm still fine with it.
Yeah, I think that I'm with no saves, I'm okay with it. Like NL Labor, I'm still fine. I'm in first still. Saves is my worst category there. As long as I'm maintaining my spot in the standings of the others, I'm not really running out to deal with picking up a closer. I mean, and all of a sudden now also, I mean, these guys in NL Labor, you want to talk about, trying to rake somebody over the coals here. I'll give a shout out to Glenn Colton, who is, he's like, oh yeah, just give me Patrick Corbin and I'll give you Hunter Strickland. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. To me, I'm underselling on Corbin. Now Corbin's not as lights out as he was to start the season, but really, am I gonna move Hunter Strickland? Move for Hunter Strickland like that? I mean, that to me seems a little far-fetched. I mean, if I'm going to get myself a closer and I'm going to trade Patrick Corbin for it, you're definitely going to be a much more elite level, or at least somebody who's going to be on a much more competitive team. Like I'll go for a Brandon Morrow, I'll go for a Wade Davis or somebody like that. Edwin Diaz. Oh, I can't do Edwin Diaz.
The NL.
What am I saying?
But it's funny. It's funny. You're kind of ruining your own argument here because I agree with you. It's a good topic on Hunter Strickland, and I've been with the Giants now here yesterday, and Melanson is back. But the argument you just made going to Edwin Diaz basically sums it up. I mean, who are the guys in the NL that you trust?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, I wasn't really thinking, so clear. That's not ruin. I don't think that's ruining my argument. I think that it's just, listen, I need to go for guys who have that job security, who are in that NL team that are sort of locked down in that position here. I mean,
like who?
Like who? All right. I'll rattle off.
I'm gonna make you do the exercise.
Yeah, no. Listen, that's totally fine by me. Let's see.
You want to start with Kenley Jansen?
I could start with Sean Doolittle, Brandon Morrow. I can go back to Corey Knebel.
Oh yeah, you feel confident on that one, do you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen. Do you feel confident with any of them? No.
Well, that's the point. I mean, he offered you Hunter Strickland. I mean, I wouldn't have done the deal either. But you're crapping on a deal that isn't that far fetched in terms of looking for a closer that's going to get you saves. I mean, do you feel better with Brad Boxberger? There's just not a lot of guys. Yeah. I mean, Kenley Jansen. You mentioned Wade Davis. You mentioned Brandon Morrow. 100%. How far off is Strickland from the rest? I mean, really? I mean, he's not that far off.
See, and I look at Strickland like I look at like a Boxberger or a Bud Norris or even a Sir Anthony Dominguez.
They're all in the same category. Vizcaíno, even right, so step above those. But all I'm saying is that you're looking for somebody with a little more certainty. You only named 3. There aren't a lot.
Okay, well, there you go. I'm not going to sit and trade it.
I'm not going to trade back for Morrow. Do it. Tell him you want. Tell me, does he have Morrow? He probably doesn't.
No, he doesn't have Morrow. No, they've got Strickland and they've got who's the other one that they have? It's somebody crappy.
They're all crappy.
Well, yeah, I know they're all crappy. Yeah. All right. Regardless of the fact, here
That
we
was
go.
a good conversation. I like that conversation.
Do you like that conversation?
That's
I'm glad you like that conversation. We can keep talking. We can keep talking closers if you want. Let's talk some AL closers here. Why not? Because there's actually some pretty cool situations going on. Oh wait, we can stay in the NL. We can talk about the Mets if you want. You want to talk about the Mets? Ugh. I'll give you the option. You can talk about the Mets closing situation here, whether we're going to go to Gazelman, whether Swarzak's going to get some saves, or how about the fact that the White Sox threw Joakim Soria back into the closer's role here? They put Nate Jones back into his middle relief spot. To me, all this is showcasing Joakim Soria. He's pitching well. Throw him in that closer's role, up his trade value. We're still looking at Nate Jones in the long term here. But, I mean, for right now, yeah, if you're desperate for saves and you're in AL or mixed league play, Joakim Soria seems to be a guy you want.
Yeah, if you're looking for 6, 7 saves, he's probably the guy, and then he'll get moved July 31st. And the reason I say 6 or 7 is because how many save opportunities would you say between now and July 31st the White Sox will get? Maximum 10. So yeah, maybe give him 8 possible saves. But listen, he's a closer in a 12-team league. If you need saves, he'll get them for you. He'd be bottom of the barrel for me, probably 28th out of 30, maybe in terms of opportunities. The Mets situation is interesting because it does look like Familia's okay, but would they consider moving him on July 31st? And if so, who would be the closer there? We saw a report that the Mets said that Gazelman is going to be used in only one-inning situations because they want to be able to use him in back-to-back nights, and then they pitched him 2 innings in that same day, which eliminated the chance of him pitching the next day. So I picked up Swarzak in our host league 5 seconds after he got the save and 5 minutes before waiver went off on Sunday night. And I'm not even starting him this week, but I think that Swarzak, by the way, is paid a lot of money, if I'm not mistaken, by the Mets over the next couple of years. They won't be able to trade him, so I could see him actually, getting more opportunities than Gazelman. I think he would be the one to own before Familia. But the one that everybody needed to run to, and it's probably too late, and it isn't really the skill set, Howard, but it's a matter of how many games the Astros going to win between now and the end of the year. We're talking about a minimum of 50 wins. I mean, you could be getting 20 saves now from Rondon if he's the closer the rest of the way. And I know that he wasn't great in Chicago and he lost his way and he wasn't even really used in the postseason. But this is catching lightning in a bottle, and the Astros are arguably the best team in all of baseball. And by the way, they haven't been hitting like the best team either, which means that a lot of close games and a lot of save opportunities, I cannot see Giles reclaiming the role. I think Rondon was a major asset, a major pickup this past week. I went very heavy in on him. Yeah.
Why don't you see Giles? I mean, listen, let's face facts. Look at the way A.J. Hinch has handled this entire situation throughout the season. Like, I mean, he crapped on this situation in spring training. He made it difficult to start the season using Giles or any of the other guys in the bullpen there. He flipped to Davinsky for a little while, then he flipped back to Giles. I mean, he's gone. There's zero consistency with A.J. Hinch, and now all of a sudden you're telling me, I know I've owned Hector Rondon before. I watched him with the Cubs for a couple of seasons there. You're telling me that once Rondon goes into one of his little cold spells and he gets touched up a little bit, that all of a sudden Hinch isn't going to start playing games again? Like, to me, one of the things that I'm looking at as far as job security also happens to be who the manager is. And I look at guys like A.J. Hinch. I look at Mike Scioscia. I look at Kevin Cash. I look at who's the other chucklehead? Oh, Gabe Kapler.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at these guys, and these guys almost don't know what they want. Like, that's the problem for me. And, we do this managerial tendencies article on Fantasy Alarm all the time here, where we're looking at the behavior of a lot of these managers. And to me, I can't rely on any of these closers here because you can't rely on their managers. These managers think that, like, they're smarter than everybody else, or they're trying to, think outside the box as much as possible as we can. I don't mind the situation that's going on with Cash in Tampa and what he's doing with having that, Stanek as his opener, or maybe sometimes it's Romo as his opener. That's fine if that's what you want to do. But there's just no, I don't know, man. There's just no consistency with how they're going about it. Like, for example, Romo to open the game against the Angels made sense. You got Kinsler, Trout, and Upton as your top 3 hitters there. Righty on righty. You get Romo to throw as hard as he can, and he, whips through that. Okay, but then you turn around and they tried it against the Nationals, and he used Stanek, the lefty. Why? Because Bryce Harper's there. Yeah, but Trey Turner, Anthony Rendon, you got all these righties in there. So you're saying that you're doing it for a very specific reason, and then you come back a couple of games later and you throw that completely out the window. So there's no consistency there, and I've seen Hinch blow up this bullpen, at least half a dozen times already this season. So, I mean, really, how much security am I looking at with Rondon?
Yeah, I don't see it the same way. I don't agree at all. I mean, Ken Giles was the closer from day one last year. He was closer all the way through until the postseason. He only lost his job because he was horrific in the postseason. So, I mean, nobody got any save opportunities for Houston last year other than Giles. But he was terrible in the postseason. The Astros decided, let's give him another chance this year. We'll probably, I still think he'll get traded at the deadline. I think he'll go somewhere else. They're not going to use him in the postseason as a closer. They can't. The first blown save he gets, we would want to fire A.J. Hinch. You'd be like, how did you put him in that situation again after what you saw last year? Giles punched himself in the face walking off the mound. They still put him in there and gave him another shot. And the reason why they're doing it, Howard, is to build up his value so they can trade him. I mean, if they just put him in a mop-up role, there's no value anymore, and I don't think anybody believes he's going to be in the 9th inning. So I understand why he's done it this year, why he's moved him around in different spots. And Devenski is simply the most dominant pitcher against left-handed hitters as a right-handed pitcher in baseball. So you're not going to use him as the closer because you're going to be facing a lot of right-handed hitters in the end. I'm not saying Rondon is the answer at all. I mean, there is absolutely that chance that he blows saves, and if he does, then Hinch is going to take him out. But he's already saved 3 straight games. I think he'll get the next opportunity to save 3 straight games, and I'll use the argument against you in this spot. The Astros, I want the closer on the best team in baseball, and I'm willing to take a bigger shot on that than I am with the closer of the Reds or the White Sox or the Marlins, because they're going to have so many opportunities there. Even if Rondon isn't perfect, his opportunities are going to come more from Houston than anybody would on the White Sox. So I was very aggressive with bidding on the team and the opportunities as opposed to the player. And so far, so good for Rondon. It wouldn't shock me to see him between now and July 31st save 10, 15 games, which would be huge in fantasy leagues. So Hinch has been very cagey about the beginning of the season naming his closers. No doubt about that. He did it last year. He did it even the year before. We didn't know who was going to be. But if you look at last year, 2017, it was day 1 with Giles all the way through the postseason. He was one of the best closers in baseball until the postseason, which I never believed he should have got another shot. They did. They've given him 2-3 shots. They brought him in the 6th inning the other day in the game that Rondon got the save. I think it's done. I think that it is Will Harris, Colin McHugh, Devenski, and Rondon. That's the way this is going to shake out.
All right. Okay. Well, there you go, guys. Craig Mish telling you, get yourself some Hector Rondon if he's available. You know what? Given what people are asking me as far as waiver wire questions, it really wouldn't surprise me to see Rondon still on a number of waiver wires out there.
He was bid on and owned in every league I was in after this past week.
Are you in competitive leagues? Are you in industry leagues? Or are you talking about your Joe Schmo league? Where all of a sudden, where people are emailing you, being like, "Wow, did you just see that Jed Lowry got dropped?" I mean,
I'll tell you. So in Tout Wars, I'm only in the NL. In the host league, I bought him for 70. Somebody bid 50. Okay. In the Great Fantasy Invitational, which I feel is pretty competitive.
Right. So these are all industry leagues. These are all competitive industry.
Somebody
leagues.
bid 120. I bid 120. Excuse me, and somebody bid 70. So I was, over and above most people, but I in all the leagues in a points league that we're playing in, which is some listeners and stuff. No. I think he went unclaimed. Maybe he's still out there, but again, this is a great situation for honestly, Howard, if Joe Smith got the last 3 saves for Houston, I would be saying the same thing about Joe Smith. It's not about the player; it's about the opportunity.
All right. Cool. I can dig that. Let's go through a couple of questions here before we start moving through some of the other stuff that we want to talk about. I definitely do want to talk about Well, yeah, I'll do the questions first. I want to talk about Francisco Mejia. Obviously, the Indians calling him up yesterday was big news. But let me just kind of cruise through some of these. All right, Stephen Feely wants to know Jose Miguel Fernandez qualifies at second base on
Right.
CBS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I
Is he
don't know.
worth picking up in a points league? He's currently streaming Josh Harrison or Daniel Descalso. I mean, is the 30-year-old Fernandez suddenly going to be the waiver savior here?
I mean, look, I don't think so, but it just depends on who you'd be cutting because we'd be sitting here 2 weeks ago
Let's say he's
saying,
cutting Descalso.
yes, you could do that. Yes, you could do that. But it's like, if somebody would have asked the same question about Max Muncy 2 weeks ago, we would have laughed, and you just don't know when some guys are just going to go crazy. So I'm not going to sit here and say no to anybody, but based on that comparison you just gave, Howard, yes, I'd cut the Scalzo to take a shot on this older kid.
This older kid. This kid is. I. Somebody referred to him as a youngster to me. I was like, really? Please don't. Please don't. All right, grade this trade here. In a keeper league, Reese Hoskins for Cody Bellinger and Zach Greinke.
I'd rather have Bellinger and Greinke.
Yeah, me too.
I get it. I get a free pitcher, and I think I'm getting more or less the same hitter. Maybe Hoskins a little better. I don't know.
I don't even know if I don't even know if Hoskins is the Oh, it's Hoskins and Greinke for Bellinger. Oh, sorry, my bad. I read that.
I want the pitcher with the hitter.
Yeah, Hoskins. Because I mean, I'm looking at it and saying Hoskins, Bellinger. For this year, both are having their struggles. Both are doing what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, I think that they're pretty much kind of the same hitter.
More or less.
Yeah. So you're getting Greinke on that. So yeah, I would whatever side gets that pitcher here. All right, can Francisco Lindor wake up the recently called up Francisco Mejia? Oh, I don't know. Can he wake him up? Like let's say Francisco Mejia, he's overslept, he's in the hotel, and and Lindor is like sharing a room with him. Okay, and he's a pretty sound sleeper. He's got the covers pulled over his head. He's got an eye mask down. Earplugs in. He's got some Zen music playing from his iPhone on the nightstand. Can Lindor wake him up?
Yes. If you put it that way, the answer is yes.
Listen, I don't know, man. Jumping up and down on the bed. Wake up!
It's not about that. Like Francisco Mejia, I drafted at the beginning of the season because he's so valuable if he's playing and he's hitting as a catcher. Catchers are just dead in fantasy. It's such a bad year. But I cut him a month ago because he wasn't hitting in the minors. So I'm like, what am I hanging on to here? So my catchers in that particular league that we're talking about were, I don't know who they were at the beginning. Oh, at the beginning of the year, they were Mejia and Hedges, right? Okay, so I cut both, and I added John Ryan Murphy. He's been a star. And I added Mitch Garver on Minnesota. I don't even know what he's doing. Is he even playing? I have no idea. It sounds like a good catching name, Mitch Garver. If I'm gonna have a kid and I want him to catch, I want him to be named Mitch Garver, right? So I thought it was a good name. I'll pick him up. Do I regret cutting Mejia at this point? Of course. But I had no idea that he was going to come up. I saw him in the Futures game. He's definitely a good hitter. He's still very young. He's had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 2 good weeks the entire year, and they were over the last 2 weeks. So I hope for the best. If he hits, he's going to stay. But I don't know the answer to it. I'd pick him up, obviously. He's a catcher. Are you kidding me? Any catcher with a pulse that's doing well, even in a 12-team league, I definitely would add him.
Well, in some leagues, I think he's only qualifying as a utility right now, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I grabbed him in a garbage Yahoo league that I'm in. As soon as I saw the news, and it just has him listed as utility. But does he have the staying power? I mean, listen, if he's not hitting, obviously he's going to end up back down. But is this more of a situation where they brought him up for the time being right now because Roberto Perez is dealing with a day-to-day hand injury? They're not sure if they're putting him on the DL yet. Edwin Encarnacion's missed 3 straight games with an ankle issue. So, I mean, where is Mejia going to play on this team? Because defensively he stinks. He's not good behind the plate.
I don't know. But I mean, look, Juan Soto could have come up and stunk and got sent down. He's been phenomenal. He stayed, and he
Right.
will stay even with those guys coming back. So Mejia, I would say you're right, Howard. He probably has a week to show what he can do, and if he goes 2 for 20, he'll probably get sent back down. But what if he goes 10 for 20? They're not going to send him back down. Where will he play? I don't know. There's a lot of answers. A lot of questions that need to be answered with him for sure, but there's no doubt that he is the Indians' number 1 or number 2 prospect. Maybe Tristan McKenzie's number 1, but Mejia is right there. And so if he does qualify at catcher, you absolutely have to pick him up because can you find 10 catchers in baseball to start, even in a 12-team league? I don't know. How do we even have 2 catcher leagues anymore?
No, I mean, listen, that's the thing is why are we still bothering with the 2 catcher? I don't understand that. Listen, there are 2 things I definitely don't understand. A, why are pitchers still hitting? Okay, and B, why are we doing 2 catcher leagues? They are a crock. You know who the number 1 catcher is by WAR right now?
I have no idea.
Francisco Cervelli.
Yeah, Cervelli, Posey. Cervelli and Posey are having good seasons. Yep. JT Realmuto's having a good season. I know Sanchez is disappointing. I know Contreras is disappointing. Mm-hmm. But those are 5 startable catchers right now in fantasy. You'd have no issue with those 5.
No, Grandal, he's got 11 home runs right now.
Year. Yes, he's had a very good year.
Fine there. Zunino's got 10 home runs, but he's batting .207.
But you're okay with it because he's hitting some. But again, now we're really dipping down. I mean, you can't even get
Sal Perez.
What's he doing?
What's Sal Perez doing? He's hitting .233 with 11 home runs.
Fair, fine. 8.
Yeah,
so
I mean, again, for the catcher position here.
Right.
You can go to Max Stassi. See, now we're here. You're scraping here because now you got Max Stassi.
Too. I mean, why don't we do? So why don't we do this? We have 2 catcher leagues. Why don't we have 2 tight end leagues in fantasy football? Try to field 2 tight ends also.
Oh, that's disgusting too, dude.
That's crazy.
Too. We did that with that Sirius XM invitation, Independence Day Invitational, where we're going with 2 tight ends. I was like, are you kidding me here?
It's like the same concept. The tight ends in the NFL are blocking tight ends. They're not meant to score in fantasy. Catchers are now meant to play defense and not give you offensive power. Ryan Murphy can be started. I'm starting him. He's doing very well. But, Arizona has 3 catchers. They're the only team in baseball. They have 3 catchers on their team because Greinke has to have Jeff Mathis. That's the rule for Greinke. He won't pitch unless he has Jeff Mathis, so he stays on the team. He catches him once a week. But, yeah, I think
he'll do more. They put Avila on the bench more often than not. I've had to replace Avila all over the place here because he's just not seeing any kind of playing time whatsoever.
And that's your fault.
Why is that my fault?
He's not good. He's not good.
I mean, listen, he was coming in the start of the season as the starting catcher. He had a decent season, a decent second half last year. Oh, okay. All right. Who are your catchers again? Oh, you started off the season with Francisco Mejia and Austin Hedges. Oh, Mitch Garver.
Hey, Austin Hedges had some good launch angle going. Don't forget that, okay?
Yeah. I got your launch angle right here, buddy. Unbelievable here. Unbelievable. Robinson Chirinos. How about that? 8 home runs.
Wellington Castillo suspended. I mean, it's like insane. It's insane. And there's just, we can both agree that there's no league you should be playing with 2 catchers. And in Tout Wars, in the NL, we have to start 2 catchers. In the NL. Think about that.
I do it in labor. In the NL. I got 2 catchers there.
So who do you have?
I don't even remember. I had a Avila. Oh yeah, so I'm still rocking a Avila because I went for I tried to put $1 on Eric Kratz. Yeah.
I have in the NL. I have Realmuto, and I've had at least 10 other catchers this year. At least. You know how much money I spent?
Oh, you know who I've got? I kind of dig. It's Tucker Barnhart.
He's okay. He's
right.
fine.
He'll hit you for an okay average. Little bit of power.
He's breathing. He's got a pulse. I think I picked up their backup, Tony Perez or whatever his name. Perez. I don't even know. I have Francisco Pena on the Cardinals. I have Francisco Pena. I'm starting him.
Elias Diaz, backup catcher for the Pirates, baby.
When he plays, he's good, but he plays once every 2 weeks. It's terrible. It's a disaster.
This position is trash, dude. I mean, seriously, it's like, yes, let's lobby. Let's make sure we get rid of 2 catcher leagues.
No more.
And really, having this discussion with a number of people as far as pitchers hitting is killing me. Like this whole traditionalist and we love this strategy and whatever. Pitchers don't hit at any level. Okay, they don't hit in college. They don't hit in the minors. They bring them up to the major leagues, and boom. Now all of a sudden you got 15 teams where the pitcher is supposed to hit. It's been an outright nightmare, like an outright nightmare. And I get all this argument from people. They're like, "Well, that's the way it's always been, and that's the strategy."
Gotta go.
I'm like, listen, evolution. Okay, you know what? You know what was common for the United States? We used to do it all the time here. Women couldn't vote. Slavery. I mean, these are all things that back in the day, that was a hard-earned tradition right there. Got to get me some slaves. That woman, no, she can't vote. She can't do anything. Like, times are changing here. Why in the world do we still have to endure watching a guy like Tanaka at the plate? Why? I mean, do you remember how bad Randy Johnson looked at the plate? We should have stopped it then. Like, as soon as Randy Johnson stepped to the plate when he was with the Giants or when he was with the Mariners, oh my God. Atrocious.
I agree. I'm going to petition Tout Wars next year. There's no reason for this. There's no strategy. It has to go. No more two catcher leagues ever. Agreed.
Yeah. And listen, people are understanding that also here. Oh, somebody mentioned Wilson Ramos. Yeah. Okay.
He's not going to hurt you.
So what is that? We're at 12 catchers who are rosterable.
We didn't get to 12. We have not gotten to 12. We've gotten to 10.
So bad. So bad. Got another grade the trade here. Maya Aroldis Chapman for their Justin Upton. I already have Trinan, Sir Anthony, Hader, Soria. My bats are hurt.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. I don't even need to grade the trade. Just do the trade.
B+.
You can give him a B+. Look at you. Look at you. Very generous. Very generous today.
It's summertime. School's out,
Okay. All right. Somebody wants to know if Max Muncy is for real.
I don't know the answer to that. I didn't think he was for real when he came up. I didn't think he was for real in the games I saw him play against the Marlins. He didn't look good. He was batting like 140. You look up, he's got 12 home runs. I have no idea. Guys sometimes figure it out and they find it. And maybe this is that guy. Villanueva got off to a hot start. He slowed down a little bit, but in the end, what did you get for Villanueva? You picked him up for nothing. He gave you all kinds of value. If Muncy's costing you nothing, you absolutely pick him up and start him. No doubt about it. At this point, no doubt.
Yeah, at this point, you got to do it. Listen, I was talking to Fabian Ardaya from the Athletic, covers the Angels, covers the Dodgers. We asked him also. I was just like, bottom line, is Max Muncy going to see the at-bats moving forward to at least warrant a spot on your fantasy roster, because he does qualify at a few different positions.
Right.
And he started, I wouldn't say he was gushing, but he was basically saying how Dave Roberts really likes Max Muncy and really likes his versatility and really likes to be able to move him around. So he will see that time. I mean, you look at what's going on at second base, Logan Forsythe, Valeria, Kiki Hernandez, those guys are sitting there at second base.
And Justin Turner hasn't been great, so look,
they're still dealing with a wrist injury right now.
Why
also.
not? Yeah, no. I don't know what he's going to do, but if you're foolish enough to just piss all over a guy who's just on fire and has 12 home runs, then you got to do it.
Is piss all over? Is that acceptable? Is that acceptable here? Like if Hayes is watching, Hayes is watching the live stream.
We're gonna have to mute that part. Yeah, we're gonna have to mute that part. But Hayes, the good thing is Hayes is in camp now.
Oh.
So and it's a little bit longer. And he's so tired after the day's over. So I think I can keep him away from this live stream.
Oh, okay. Good.
Let you loose, Bender. Let it loose.
Oh. I won't. Just on the off chance that he comes home from camp today and he's like, you know what, Dad? I really want to see you on TV again.
Yeah, then I'm going to have to just put an old live stream on, Howard, I got to tell you, no doubt Chris Davis of the Orioles going to have a big year.
Big year. Big year. All right,
can you imagine promoting that guy at the beginning of the year? I think we have to go back and search for every fantasy analyst who said that this guy was going to have a good year and eliminate them from from the fantasy analyst annals. He's the single worst pick in the history of fantasy. He is.
There's not a single pick out there that you would say was a worse pick than Chris Davis.
Nope.
He wasn't even going, high up in drafts. You were talking
It doesn't
mid to
matter.
late rounds.
Wherever you took him, he hurt you worse than anyone else in fantasy.
Oh, I don't know. I'll tell you what. Everybody out there watching the live stream right
Tell
now.
me. Give me a guy.
Yeah, we want. That's what we want. We're looking for who was a worse pick than Chris Davis. We're talking Chris Davis with the Orioles, Chris with a C.
I'll justify it, but first I want some suggestions before I get into it.
All right, so I will continue to scan here and figure some stuff out. Not sure if I just cut them, maybe a value. So come on, people. You Darvish. There. Did you just hear the? It was like our
John
producer John and Pemba come crawling out of a hole. He was like,
but he wasn't clear.
Darvish.
I'll explain to you. John's very smart, but I'll explain to you why you Darvish was not as bad a pick as Chris Davis.
Okay, I want to hear it.
You know why? Because you Darvish hasn't pitched for about a month.
So he's not hurting your team. He's just sitting on the DL.
There you go.
All right. Mendo Bruce says Rich Hill. What about Rich Hill?
Another player who hasn't hurt you because he hasn't pitched.
Yeah, but you're not starting Chris Davis at this point right now, are you? Why are you giving me the bug eyes?
Some teams may be. Some teams may be.
Somebody just said based on draft position and return, Keith Giordano says Chris Bryant. Kind of interesting here with Chris Bryant, because here's the thing that a lot of people didn't realize and didn't understand. And I read an interview with Bryant last year. I'd say probably it was just after the All-Star break where he started talking about the fact that he wanted to become a more balanced hitter. It was more important for him to be a gap hitter, get on base, than it was really to hit home runs. And he changed his launch angle, actually reduced his launch angle, and changed a little bit of his stance. So, people are sitting there expecting Chris Bryant to be a 35, 40 home run guy. It's
not a bad example.
Didn't catch that kind of information there.
Maybe it's not a bad example, but again, you still second half of the season of Bryant, where all things being equal, 15, 20 home runs. He hasn't been good, but he hasn't destroyed you like Chris Davis. Like Chris Davis, I would assume most people by now aren't starting him anymore. But factually speaking, people in AL only competitive leagues, Howard, are 100% still. Are you in any AL leagues only? AL labor or something like that, or no? You're not, right? I bet you he's still starting for somebody in there. And I would tell you that up until June, I bet you some teams still had him in their lineup in 12-team leagues.
It's possible.
Now you'd have to be a complete idiot. You literally, you'd have to be. But
how about a vote for Rougned Odor?
He's in the conversation for sure.
He's got to be. We just found out. We were talking to John Daniels on Sirius XM yesterday.
Yeah.
This morning, where he said basically that Rougned Odor has options, has a minor league option available still.
I told you how bad Texas was going to be at the beginning of the year.
Oh, atrocious.
I got something to show you on that as we go on the season. Not yet.
Not yet. I got votes for Hunter Renfroe, Hanley Ramirez, and Jason Kipnis.
Hunter Renfroe hasn't killed you, and plus he's been hurt. Jason Kipnis is in the conversation for sure. He's in because he gave you some hope. And Hanley Ramirez, come on. You took him late. He actually was okay when he played. He wasn't terrible. And where Hanley Ramirez is going to hurt you is in the only league, in an AL only, if you took him, because you may lose him to the NL. But as I said on the show with Jim today, there are two players that both on these live streams and also on our shows that we have wasted more time talking about that we will never get back. We will never get that time back, and we completely wasted our time. Believe it or not, for people who didn't watch our live stream 2 weeks ago, we actually placed bets on where Hanley Ramirez, we spent 10 minutes on where he would end up. which is just a disservice to all of the fantasy community. I mean, to think that he was actually going to be somewhat in demand, we haven't even cashed in our bet on that. Nobody wants him at all.
Well, I mean, the problem is that, again, you've got the fantasy community that latches onto a player for his name and for what he did in the past. And that's the problem. Of course nobody wants him.
I mean, somebody threw out the idea that he was negotiating with a few teams for some extra money. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not happening. Nobody wants him at all. And the other player, thank goodness we didn't do this on the live stream, but on the show, Jim and I made a pact that when the story came out, we were not going to address it, talk about it, or deal with it because we knew how it was going to end up, was Tim Lincecum. That was the other one. Tim Lincecum, when there was slow news time in March, can you imagine? Oh, he's going to have a showcase. He's going to be the closer of Texas. Oh, my gosh. We spent 5 minutes on that guy. Like, we literally spent 5 minutes that we'll never get back. And we just sometimes have to identify when players are being propped up for no reason at all, just based off their name. And those two guys this year were Lincecum and Hanley Ramirez. Now, Hanley Ramirez did actually play okay in April. He was picked up in some leagues. But after he was cut and Howard and I sat here and did a draft of teams that he was going to end up with, and none of them want him. Oh, man. Are we going to do this with Matt Latos now?
Oh, Matt Latos. Is he coming back?
He had a big fight. See that fight?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, my gosh. You got to Google it. He had a huge fight in a minor league game 2 days ago. Huge.
Really?
Body slammed the guy. Yeah.
Matt Latos.
And Matt Latos is only 30 years old. That's crazy.
He's trash. All right, let's see. Couple of all right, nothing to do 1, 2, 3 over here on YouTube. Wants to know Rhys Hoskins, whether that's decent fantasy value moving forward. Yohan Moncada.
I'm worried about Moncada, but I'm not giving up on Rhys Hoskins. Not giving up.
Okay.
I don't have him anywhere I don't have either guy anywhere, but I think that I'm not giving up on Hoskins, and I want to see August and September of this year play out the way that it did last year. I'm not giving up. Not doing it. At 25 home runs for Hoskins at the end of the year, for sure.
All right. What about Dylan Bundy? Threw 8 scoreless frames last night against the Red Sox. Do you think he can continue to perform?
They're not going to win a lot of games anyway. It doesn't matter. Redraft leagues, gone.
Yeah.
Dylan Bundy should throw 7 shutout innings next time out. I mean, you want the ratios, maybe, but, I mean, he's dangerous to own. And they're not going to win games at all. That team's quit. They're finished. It's the worst team in baseball. The number 1 pick in the draft is the Orioles. I never would have thought that at the beginning of the year.
I mean, I think from a talent standpoint, I think that Bundy does have a decent skill set. You also have to just kind of, take certain things with a grain of salt. I mean, again, like you said, it is the Orioles. They're not going to win a lot of games. What was going on with the Red Sox? There was something that was up with the Red Sox lineup last night also.
I'll give you an example of a comparison. And here, I'll give you 2 options. Option 1 in a 12-team league is to have Dylan Bundy, and I think we both would agree for him to win 5 more games the rest of the season is a stretch. It's going to be very hard. Okay, that team is terrible. Okay, now is it worth that risk to get yourself another 60 strikeouts, an ERA of 3.8, or would you rather have Chris Davinsky on Houston, who's going to have a better ERA, a better WHIP, less strikeouts, and probably 2 or 3 less wins? And you know what he's going to do. I think I'd rather have the bullpen guy than have Bundy. That's the way that I see it. And again, if Bundy was on a better team, I may be willing to roll the dice a little bit. Like the guy I interviewed the other day, Chris Stratton. He has 7 wins. I don't know how he has 7 wins, but his ERA is 4.5. The Giants seem to be a better team than they have been in years past. But if Bundy throws 7 innings of 3-run ball, he's not winning, and then you're running the risk that he throws a Bundy out there, which is that one game where he gave up like 8 earned runs or 9 earned runs. I just can't buy anything the Orioles are doing right now.
You mean when he channels his inner Gossman?
Both those guys, man. And Bundy, I agree with. There is some skills there, I think, but you're just taking a huge risk with that. It's like the Velasquez risk. Ugh, killed me last week.
Oh yeah, well, Vince Velasquez, absolutely. What about Clay Buchholz? You want to talk about a guy who's been hot trash for the entire time, and now all of a sudden he's pitching reasonably well. I think he's pitching tonight, isn't
It's
he?
Pittsburgh. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So he's pitching tonight against the Pirates. What do you think? Clay
A, na-
Buchholz, is
a
that a guy
name
you're
I
interested in?
a name I never thought that I would be, but I did bid on him this past week. So you got to ride the hot hand. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, guys reinvent themselves, I suppose. Bartolo Colon's done it a few times. Buchholz has been nothing for almost ever, pretty much, right? So maybe this is it. I don't know. Hard to believe, but look, Buchholz has to pitch well. He has to have 3 good starts, in this start, the next start, and the next one have got to all be good, or else Robbie Ray's coming back at the end of the month and he'll take a spot, and that's it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think they have anybody else that they would bump.
And Godley hasn't been good either, but he's got to
No,
stay.
but I still feel like he's got a better chance of righting the ship than
I agree.
Buchholz does of
I agree.
continuing this.
Totally agree.
All right, talk about a couple of hitters here. You've got listed as some hot hitters right now. What to do with them? Randall Grichuk, who Bowden crapped on extensively when I drafted him in the FSTA league. Cargo's heating up a little bit right now, as much as Cargo can heat up, and then Scott Schebler from the Reds. Who, you know what? Listen, I like Schebler a lot. I think he's a decent lefty bat, and I actually prefer him over Adam Duvall. But talk to me about those 3 guys. Jumping on any of them in a 12-teamer?
Well, I think Grichuk is getting more of an opportunity to play again, and he's probably more of a DFS option when he gets hot. But I don't think that the Jays are willing to punt that situation there. I think that they're going to give him a little bit more of an opportunity to play. And I think that the end is here for one of my favorite guys, by the way, in the game, and Curtis Granderson. But this is it. Like, this will be his last year. And I think he'll play over him at the very least. He's not going to play over Pilar or Teoscar Hernandez, but he'll definitely play over Granderson. So I think playing time could be there. And when he gets hot, he's somebody that you want to own. He's been really bad in the first 2+ months of the season, but I think some chances will come there, and the Jays are headed in the wrong direction. So I think he'll play a little bit. Schebler is somebody who I own, and I've been riding him out, hoping for some things to happen. He's batting, I think, at the top of the lineup, right? He's leading off for Cincinnati. And if you look in fantasy at every 12-team league, go around the league, how many leadoff hitters are unowned in 12-team leagues? The answer is like none. So I think that it's time to get back on the train there. And with David Dahl now out, and this job being basically Carlos Gonzalez's to win or lose, it seems as though the last couple of weeks he's been better. So maybe there is a little fountain of youth going on with him. But those are 3 hot hitters that you have to pay attention to because they have track record of having streaks. Gonzalez is streaky. Schebler is streaky when he's hot, and Grichuk is very streaky. So those are the kind of guys that when they get the playing time, you want to ride them when they're hot, and then when they slow down again, you can cut them.
Got a little question here from, I can't even read that. Yeah, I got to get new contact lenses, too. This is a mess. Do you guys think Giancarlo Stanton will get hot with the weather? Might try to deal Verlander for him. Would you trade Verlander for Stanton at this point?
No. No way.
Tell me why.
One of the top 5 pitchers in fantasy you don't trade unless the name is Trout or Betts or JD Martinez. So valuable pitching right now. And now that we've eliminated Strasburg, who was arguably a top 10 guy, and we've eliminated Kershaw, and he was arguably a top 10 guy. We've eliminated Syndergaard, and he's a top 10 guy. I mean, you got to have some stones to trade Verlander right now. I saw Stanton have a historical run last year, and people are counting on that in July and August, and I think there's a good chance of that happening again. I still think he'll hit 40 to 50 home runs, but no, the elite pitchers in fantasy, like Max Scherzer, like Justin Verlander, I think Cole is now entered that conversation, Severino, Chris Sale, Corey Kluber, Jacob deGrom, even though he's not going to win a lot of games, see, that's a difference between a Bundy and a deGrom. deGrom's numbers are incredible. Like, he is going to strike out guys, have a low ERA and low whip no matter what. So even if he's not winning games, I'm okay with that. But if you're not getting back huge return on those guys, no way. Now, if you said to me, I'm trading John Lester for Giancarlo Stanton because Lester's having a fantastic year, yeah, I mean, that I could live with. But I would not trade one of the top 4 or 5 guys. Can't do it.
Cool. Cool. All right. Couple of pitcher names here. Looking at this from just an innings pitched perspective, because again, little category impact here. You ready for this one? You might want to get like a room deodorizer
Okay.
as
Yeah,
I
get the
name
Febreze.
these. Yeah, get the Febreze. You ready? Dylan Covey.
He's pitching well.
Yeah, I know he's pitching well. Do you believe in Dylan Covey? Yeah, I didn't think so.
No, but he's pitching very well. Okay, keep
Dylan
going.
Covey, Mike Soroka, Carlos
Yes.
Rodon.
Ooh, Rodon. I was on Rodon a couple of years ago. I don't know if I trust Rodon on that. I'll go back to Soroka here. Atlanta's good. They're hitting. Good vibes
You don't have
there.
concerns about his shoulder, though?
No. Mm-mm.
No.
They didn't rush him. That was the reason why he took so long to come back.
Okay.
There's no rush. I like him. I'll go with him definitely over those others.
Okay, I like it. Austin Meadows. Yes, he's batting 346. Any expectation from him for the rest of the season? Well, I mean, yeah. Listen,
They're going to trade Dickerson or Polanco.
Or Polanco. One of those two guys.
Marte is very good. Yeah, so they're going to trade Dickerson or Polanco at the deadline, and Austin Meadows on July 31st through September 31st or 30th, right? Is going to play every day.
Yeah,
a lot of value moving forward, I think.
Yep. Oh, Keith Giordano still going back to this Lewis Brinson argument here. Is the horse beaten dead enough here? Is he in the glue factory?
What do we want on Brinson? What do you want to know?
He doesn't want to know anything about Brinson. Well, he wants to know at what point do you give up on superstar Lewis Brinson?
It would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to predict that somebody that's batting 170 is going to bat 370 ever in his career. It simply doesn't happen. The best sign for Brinson all season was last night because he hit what should have been a home run off Madison Bumgarner. And if you go back and look at his game logs of the home runs he's hit, he has hit 9 this season. 8 were against pitchers, and 1 was against Jed Jerko. So let's just eliminate that one. So he hit 8. He had 8 home runs.
Jed Jerko's got a hell of an arm, dude.
And the best pitcher that he hit a home run off all season was Doolittle, and it was the first home run he hit all year. After that, the only pitcher that he hit a home run off of that you can name was Julio Teheran, and I know how you feel about him. So that's why I think last night was a really good sign, because he almost, I mean, literally by that much, missed a home run off Bumgarner. So I'm more optimistic than I ever have been on him at this moment. But that being said, I'm still not optimistic that he's going to be. I mean, who went from batting 170 to 330 with 30 home runs and 30 steals? And it's Lewis Brinson in the end. If I had to predict now, and it's not fair to him, but if I had to predict, his stats next year would be 230 batting average, 280 on base, 21 home runs, 53 runs driven in, and 10 steals. That's what I would say for 2019. For the rest of this year, about maybe a little bit of improvement, but he's significant swing and miss, man. Like significant, like 200 strikeout swing and miss. It's a lot.
Yeah. I remember when he got traded, when Texas traded him, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, just traded Lewis Brinson." You know what? Like trading Lewis Brinson was the equivalent of when the Marlins got Cameron Maben. Like
there's a lot of comparison with those two players.
Yeah, I mean that's high pedigree, supposed to be 5-tool player, supposed to be the next budding superstar. And yeah,
I'll give you the perfect comp for Lewis Brinson that nobody has given yet. Remember when I said that this happened? Remember the name, okay?
Okay.
Lewis Brinson. You ready for it?
No.
Drew Stubbs.
Ooh, Drew Stubbs. Man, that dude was going to be the be-all, end-all. That dude was like a 30 home run guy with a 205 average. That was
Drew Stubbs.
Oh, that's atrocious, dude. That is absolutely
Drew
atrocious.
Stubbs had some really good years, though. Really good fantasy years, right? Really good fantasy years.
How many good fantasy years did Drew Stubbs have? And I'm looking for Drew Stubbs. Here we go.
You will find two Drew Stubbs seasons that you would love him in fantasy, and you
All
would
right.
consider him elite in fantasy.
Let's see. Yes, you are correct. In 2010,
Mm-hmm.
he hit 255. He had
Perfect.
22 home runs,
Mm-hmm.
30 stolen bases.
Drew Stubbs, fantasy star.
In 2011, he batted 243
Perfect.
with 15 home runs,
Fine.
40 stolen bases.
Drew Stubbs, elite.
Even with the Rock, look at this.
He had one good
2012.
year with the Rockies. He had one
I mean, listen, 2012, crappy batting average, 213, 14 home runs, 30 stolen bases.
That's pretty bad, though. That's pretty bad because you're not. I mean, in this day and age, to only remember that was the pitching era. We're in the hitting era again now, and only having 14 home runs and 215 with the 30 steals, like that's an NL only star, but not a fantasy star. No, that's not.
In
That's
2014, his his first year with the Rockies, 15 homers, 20 stolen bases, batted 289.
Yeah, that was a miracle.
Yeah.
I think Lewis Brinson may be Drew Stubbs.
Oh man,
Is that a great? Has anybody put that comp on?
Nobody has ever made that comp for me. I love that comp.
Bring that
I
one
really
up.
do.
Bring that one up with Jim. Jim's is Keon Broxton, but I think it's more of a Drew Stubbs because I think that there's going to be some elite skill of the 5 fantasy categories, whether it's steals or whether it's home runs. Something is going to come there. And by the way, in terms of defense, Brinson's fantastic. We just don't care about defense in fantasy.
No, we really don't. We really don't. Nothing to do. 0123 says Merrifield now leading off for the Royals. Is it better now for the rest of the season? I don't know if he's going to stay in the leadoff spot the entire time here. I know he's got 14 steals. Listen, I like Whit Merrifield. And I think that it was great watching him last year. Nice little late bloomer who turned his season, turned everything upside down with the way he performed. And it was great. Do I think that he's got the capability of repeating those numbers? I don't know. Probably not. At least
it would have been very
front.
hard. Yeah, it would have been very hard for him too. And now he's playing. I don't know how much people make of lineups, but he's playing in a lineup that's considerably worse than it was last year. Say what you want about Eric Hosmer, having him in the lineup is huge for any Major League Baseball team. You're going to get a quality at bat. July 34th, they already traded Jay, so now July 31st they'll trade Moustakas probably, right? It's just, the Royals are already 20 games under 500. It's hard, It's Kansas City kept all their players together because they felt like there was a chance they could make the postseason last year. Now there's no chance, so right. Merrifield's numbers have to come back down a little bit, but it definitely gives him some added value at the top of the lineup, and he's one of the top 3 hitters on that team probably. So I could see him if he's not batting first, batting second.
Yeah, no, I could see that as well. Again, the question is who's going to be hitting behind him right now, or at least in the future? Because you're right, they are going to trade Moustakas. The only reason they signed Moustakas back was so that they could try and trade him again right. At the deadline here. Merrifield is a possibility of being traded as well. You're not rebuilding with a 30-year-old second baseman. That's not what it's gonna. You're not gonna see that. I don't know what the control years are for Merrifield because he never really he was never brought up, early on in his career. So maybe they do hold on to him, but when you're sitting there and all of a sudden the Royals start trading away all of their moving parts, all their workable parts there. If Merrifield stays, he's a man alone on an island. And it's not like you're going to pitch around him, but are you really going to give him much to hit in the first place? So I think that he's got value right now. He's got value straight up through the trade deadline. We're going to have to just kind of wait and see what happens with his situation here. But listen, anybody who, like you said with Schebler, anybody who's batting leadoff, has to be owned.
Has to be owned. And the other thing also, I'll close it out with Merrifield. Remember, if you're into trends, then the trend is that who was better in fantasy in the second half of last year than Whit Merrifield at his position? The answer is no one. So if maybe he's a second half player, that's just something to consider. I'm not saying that he is or he isn't, but he was from the All-Star break on last year as good as anybody in the game. So just something to keep in mind.
Right on. And that's going to do it for us for the live stream today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate all the questions, all the comments. More than happy to take at RotoBuzzGuy and at Craig Mish. If you can find us more players who are worse picks in fantasy than Chris Davis, let's start that chain going. That's going to be comical beyond belief, right?
I can fight anyone on this one.
Oh, you know what? There you go.
I mean, the only other guy would have been Cole Calhoun. You know, Cole. Yeah, I mean, Cole, and that was the one that I was waiting for somebody to throw Cole Calhoun on me because that's the closest.
Well, I don't think Todd Zola's watching the live stream right now. Maybe that's what the problem is.
I don't know, but Cole Calhoun is on the DL now, so you can't give me Cole Calhoun anymore because he's not playing, right? I think he's on the DL. So, but those are I think those are 1 and 2 for me. I mean, because you kept playing Cole Calhoun at 12-team league. Maybe not as much as Chris Davis, but you played Cole Calhoun right into the ground.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Again, Craig and I will be back Friday, noon Eastern. Once again, you can catch him 9 to 11 Eastern time every Monday through Friday on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Find me at, where am I? Oh, Fantasy Alarm Show, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Right? Oh, my God.
Go take a nap.
I'm going to go take a nap. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We are out of here.